I love the smell of a new book. Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. Chapter 1. Leap of Faith. You've got no shadow, Martina informs me, gazing down at my feet and then shifting her eyes back up to mine. I check, and sure enough, my friend is largely correct. Thanks to the afternoon sun hanging directly overhead, it appears my shadow has mostly disappeared. It's a subtle observation, a phenomenon you'd never really notice unless you were looking for it, and yet Marina has pointed it out with an excited grin. Of course, closer examination would reveal that my shadow, while small, is still there. Hawaii is the only state where shadows do completely disappear, and this rare event only happens twice a year. It's called Lahaina Noon. I don't say this, though. I think to ask why Martina is so excited about her flawed discovery, one that immediately falls apart after the slightest direct inspection. But I quickly realize I don't have to. I, too, notice the little things Martina does, logging every tiny quirk of the world, regardless of whether anyone else finds it worthy of comment. There are so many beautiful pieces in God's grand puzzle, and you can miss them if you're not careful. Yeah, I guess you're right, I offer, like Peter Pan. Martina continues, the smile curling wider across her overwhelmingly freckled face. If anyone else, the unhinged friendliness might signal a touch of sarcasm, lurking somewhere behind their large green eyes. But I know better. At least I hope I do. I nod along, smiling happily despite suddenly finding myself in the pop culture deep end with little understanding of what she's talking about. I've never read the book, nor seen any films related to this antique story with questionable motives. There's enchantment involved, so I know enough to stay far, far away. For a brief moment I consider telling Martina that she shouldn't read that stuff, that the only magic she needs is the love of Christ, but I hesitate. I've had these conversations before, and even in a town as God-fearing as Neverton, there are only so many who want to hear it. Most Christian folk are friendly enough, but the second you start rubbing their faces in these little indiscretions, they bristle. The last thing I want to do is make Martina bristle. Did you have to read that freshman year? She asks, clearly noting the pained expression on my face. I'm so desperately struggling to avoid. I shake my head. No, I reply flatly, rejecting explanation. The truth is, I do remember Peter Pan being assigned an English class, and I remember the reports that accompanied this classic's secular take from James Matthew Barrie. Barrie? I could easily tell you where the author was born, how he died, Scotland, pneumonia, or even let you in on the fact that he killed off an equally profane and godless character, Sherlock Holmes, in a non-canonical story well before Sir Arthur Conan Doyle ever had the chance. These facts about the author create a window into his work, not a door. It's a window I've never crawled through, intentionally. Oh, aren't you in my class? Martina continues. I thought everyone read it. Once again, I'm put to the test, reaching the familiar crossroads of how forthcoming I think I should be. I love Jesus, I really do. But Jesus would want me to be cool. He'd want Martina to think I'm cool. Kingdom of the Pine was founded on a bedrock of practicality, after all. Which brings me back to this conversation, and the sudden realization I've been standing in silence for way too long. I need an answer that will appease both a fellow student and the good Lord above, struggling to walk the razor's edge between the truth of my deeply held convictions and the relaxed sheen of a perfectly normal girl. Not all Kingdom kids are weird. I fumble, struggling to craft an excuse, and coming up short as my mind tumbles and churns. My parents didn't want me reading it, I finally reply, submitting the truth and letting the chips fall where they may. Magic, you know? Martina's already enormous green eyes widen in shock. Wait, really? She blurts. Her expression is not what I expected. Flooded by sudden excitement and genuine interest, I now realize she might have been impressed by this moral objection, and my mind began to race as I wondered if she's proud of me. Well, not prideful, but something like that. I've known Martina for a very long time, although we've only recently started talking in a meaningful way. Could she have similar convictions? Could this be the start of that deep, authentic friendship I've been hoping for? That's fucked up. Martina finally continues, immediately prompting me to pump the proverbial brakes on my enthusiasm. That's way fucked up, Rose. I'm sorry your parents are so crazy. I can't help nodding along, the muscles of my neck taking a life of their own. Yeah, I reply, rolling my eyes. Way messed up. Parents, right? The second these words leave my lips, I feel the deep ache of regret. A guilty pang that shoots down my spine is a sinful reminder. God's watchful eye has noticed. Martina smiles, though, and suddenly this regret is met with something else, a surge of joy that counteracts the holy venom, like Anna Vip through the bloodstream of some poor soul who crossed a Pentecostal pit viper. I've got to pull back on the snake handling. All right, see you at the bottom, Martina says. My friend promptly returns and breaks into a run, sprinting with her bare feet across the short, rocky runway. It's as though the frozen universe has started rolling on again. The rustle of the trees and the splash of the water, far, far below, filling my ears. The other kids who've gathered around these cliffs watch in amazement, their hair wet and stringy as towels drape across them for a fleeting moment of dryness, for the next brave leap. Everyone here is used to jumpers taking their time for a big show, standing at the edge of the cliff for a good while and gazing down as though considering their surrender. Of course, once they've gotten to the rocky ledge, they rarely back down. And everyone watching knows this. It's all part of the performance. A temporary ringmaster gathering as many eyes as possible before rushing to the edge and hurling themselves over. They tumble down into the cool water below with a mighty splash, followed by excited cheers from their temporary but adoring fans. Martina doesn't need any of that. Fuck! She cries as she springs from the rocks, her body rocketing forward while arms and legs continue pumping in the air. I can see the exact point at which gravity catches hold of her body, gripping tight and then yanking downward in a sharp change of trajectory that would make Newton proud. I lose sight of Martina's long strawberry curls as she drops, but I'm still too frightened to rush to the edge to witness her plummet. Seconds after disappearing from view, there's a loud splash, followed by a joyful eruption from the crowd. Their applause carries out through the forest around us, washing through the trees like audible water. Carefully, I creep to the edge and stare down into the swimming hole that lies below. The dark water still rippling from Martina's plunge. A few sunbathers lay out on the shore nearby in various states of undress, many of them less covered up than I'm comfortable with. And a handful of swimmers float at the outer rim of this dazzling natural pool. It's a hot day in Montana, so the falls are packed. I continue gazing, waiting for Martina to resurface as my heart rate needlessly quickens. She's done this jump 100 times, and it appears none of them have resulted in disaster so far. There's no logical reason for Martina to have any trouble this time around, but as I stare down at the reflective surface below, I can't help the tiny seed of fear that blossoms at the pit of my stomach. For some reason, I've found myself caring a lot about how things turn out for her. It feels, in a word, weird. A wave of relief pulses through my body as Martina breaks the surface, taking in a big gulp of air and instinctively whipping her red hair from side to side. She begins swimming gracefully across the water, making her way up to the shore. From up here, I can see her body move in a completely new light, propelling forward From up here, I can see her body move in a completely new light, propelling forward with majestic elegance. She looks like a frog as she kicks her legs, but that comparison sounds brash and awkward, while Martina is nothing of the sort. You gonna give it a shot? A voice abruptly questions from behind, breaking my focus and causing a startled breath to catch in my throat. I turn around to find my friend Isaiah, his shirtless body already deeply tanned in the afternoon sun. His hair is still wet from the last leap. I have no doubt he'd love to make another running launch off the cliffside. However, Isaiah has taken a moment away from his own madcap antics to nurture my growth as a future daredevil. I was thinking about it, I admit. Isaiah cracks a smile. It's not as hard as it looks. I mean, we're only 30 feet up. You're not gonna die. People died jumping here in 1977, 1980, and 2016, I inform him. So, it's possible. Oh. Isaiah replies, his enthusiasm abruptly deflating. He narrows his eyes as a confused expression crosses his face, suddenly confronted by an unexpected kernel of self-doubt. The average speed of a dive is 15 feet per second. Therefore, a swimming hold between 10 and 15 deep could paralyze you in less than a second. I don't mention this. You're still not going to die, I assure him. The chances of fatal injury are phenomenally low. If you want to increase your survival odds, make sure that you jump feet first. Never dive. Isaiah nods along as I pull him back into mental alignment. Plus, God's watching over you. I continue. Isaiah smiles a toothy, all-American grin. My friend reaches out and places a hand on my shoulder in a gesture of reassurance, lingering there a little longer than I might have expected. Amen. Finally, I let out an awkward laugh and my friend removes his hand. Well, let's see it then, Isaiah says, nodding towards the cliff edge. What you got, Rose? Isaiah backs away and motions for the other kids up here to clear a path. They're waiting and watching now, their eyes trained on me in anticipation of the leap to come. 9 out of 10 accidents occur when people are playing near the water's edge, not when they're focused on jumping in. I pull off my long dress and toss it to the side, revealing the most decidedly modest black one-piece I could find online. Unlike Martina, however, I'm not yet comfortable enough to flip myself into oblivion without a good look below. I know I'll be fine. That most of the danger here is nothing but an illusion, but my brain understanding this is one thing, and my body appropriately reacting is another. My heart is slamming hard within my chest, thundering away as a sizzling hot tingle makes its way across my skin. This is your fight or flight refall. This is your fight or flight response. Your sympathetic nervous system is releasing catecholamines and making you hyper aware of your surroundings. The solution, of course, is grounding in prayer. I spend a moment observing the scene around me, taking in faces on every side of the watering hole. Across the way on the opposite cliff, even more of my peers are watch with excitement and anticipation. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Some people come here to jump, others just want to be a part of something. As the school year comes to an end and we all prepare to leap from our own metaphorical cliffs into adulthood, it's easy to get restless. We're all pretending it's midsummer and we're finally free, despite the fact that tomorrow we'll be right back to the Monday grind. I get the distinct feeling I'm living in what will someday be a fond memory. With that, I command my foot to take its first step towards the edge. My body refuses to move. The Lord is my light and my salvation. I repeat. I take a deep breath and center myself once more, focused on compelling my body forward. Still nothing. I remain motionless, staring out at a sea of classmates on the opposite cliffside while they gaze back at this curious standoff between mind and body. It's not so bad once you start running, Isaiah says from behind. Once you reach the edge, the hard part's over. His words are kind, and I appreciate his vote of confidence. But in a practical sense, it does absolutely nothing. I'm displaying textbook freezing behavior, and Isaiah has no more control over my basolateral amygdala than I do. Suddenly, another familiar voice chimes in, hooting like a baseball coach from the dugout. Let's go, Rose! I glance over to find Martina has already climbed back up, soaking wet with a towel wrapped tightly around her body. Our eyes meet, and she smiles warmly, immediately melting away the anxiety and fear that had paralyzed me with its icy grip. She winks. I grin back, basking in this feeling for a moment, then return my focus to the cliff. Feeling renewed, I prepare a third attempt to compel myself forward. But before I get the chance, my gaze falls onto something strange across the ravine. The other side of the cliffs is fairly close, some 40 feet across, with a small waterfall carving its way down the middle in a never-ending cascade. Fellow classmates in their colorful swimwear line the opposite edge, but tucked back into the forest is another figure that watches with stoic intensity. I squint a bit, struggling to parse whether my eyes are playing tricks through the shady wood. A frighteningly pale woman is standing in the forest, her hair long and black as it hangs limply over her face and around her bony shoulders. It appears she's staring directly at me, but it's difficult to tell because her eyes lack irises or pupils. They are solid white globes. The woman is smiling, her expression frozen and her teeth unusually stained with dark brown and black smears. The teeth themselves are crooked and long, as though her gums have receded to provide an unnatural length. Yet, despite all of this, the strangest thing about the woman's appearance is what she's wearing. She sports a deep red polo shirt with a stark white name tag pinned to her chest. It's the kind of top you'd expect to see worn by somebody arriving to fix your wireless internet, or telling you which aisle to check at a department store. She also wears a thick metal band around her neck, pulled tight like a collar, and khaki pants. Do you see that? I question, whispering to Isaiah as my gaze remains fixed on the woman in the woods. Across the way, nobody seems to notice this peculiar figure, despite the fact that she's standing less than 10 feet behind them and in the underbrush. See what? Isaiah asks. I point to the other side of the swimming hole, but just as Isaiah follows my gesture, the eerie woman steps back into the lush Montana forest, disappearing just as quickly as she arrived. I peer into the shadows, struggling to catch sight of her, but coming up empty. There was a woman over there, I continue. She looked kinda off. Off how? He asks. I don't know, I reply, then shake my head as though this futile gesture might clear out the cobwebs. I certainly don't intend to make a scene out of some poor old woman who happens to appear, well, frightening. Maybe she's sick. Could have been somebody's mom checking in on them, I suggest, offering this explanation more to myself than Isaiah. I really don't see anything, he says, genuinely apologetic, then lowers his voice a bit. Hey, if you don't want to jump, it's all good. Someone else steps up next to us, a girl I don't know who's anxious to get things going again. Are you gonna jump? She asks, clearly annoyed. Glance around to find a line has formed behind me, folks waiting their turn while I stare off into space, let my imagination run wild. Sorry, I mumble, stepping back. Martina isn't as receptive. Chill out, she's getting ready, my friend retorts angrily from the sidelines. Chill out, she's getting ready. I push away any thoughts of that curious lady in the woods, or the height of this drop, or the fact that school is ending and life is waiting for me with wide open jaws like the whale ready to swallow Jonah whole. Instead, I focus on the simple act of putting one foot before the next. I take one final look at Martina, just about ready to step forward, when something startling and warm slips between my fingers. Glancing down, I find Isaiah is gripping my hand in his, an unexpected gesture of friendship. We'll jump together, Isaiah offers. I was about to go on my own, but a little more support couldn't hurt. A strange coo falls from the lips of everyone watching, a sound I'm not quite sure what to make of, as expressions shift into knowing smiles and glances are exchanged between this cliffside and the next. I begin to recite a short verse under my breath, repeating it to myself in quiet anticipation. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Go on 3. Isaiah proclaims. 1, 2, 3. We take off down the short runway, our feet thundering against the dirt until there's no ground left to slam against. I push with my final step and erupt into the air, unable to keep myself from crying out with a long scream of equal parts fear and excitement. There are a few precious moments of high school left, but this one feels like the pinnacle of summer. An electric tingle surges across my frame as gravity catches hold, Isaiah and I plummeting towards the deep blue below. It's a strange sensation that my brain immediately struggles to analyze and dissect. But before I get the chance to understand it fully, I'm slamming into the cool water. My senses are swallowed by darkness, the sound of the world around me sucking inward and holding tight as I struggle to get my bearings. I'm still plummeting, just slower now, and for a brief moment my feet touch the welcome clay of the riverbed below. I push back against the bottom and swim up in a cascade of tiny bubbles, finally breaking the surface once again. The resulting rush is incredible, my body fresh and rejuvenated in a way I didn't quite expect. That was my first jump ever, a welcome baptism. I run fingers through my long blonde hair, pushing it away from my face as I spit some of the water that managed to force its way down my throat. As I sputter and cough, Isaiah emerges next to me in the dark pool. You all right, Rose? He chuckles as he watches me awkwardly pull myself together. I'm amazing, I reply. I can't believe I just did that. God is good. Isaiah is unable to keep himself from smiling even wider as we tread water next to each other, savoring the unexpected calm following such a gaudy stunt. Silence falls, bathing the scene in an awkward hush. I was so relaxed. Now this is tense. Why is this tense? Finally, I can't take it anymore. I splash some water in Isaiah's face and let the pressure deflate with a good-hearted laugh. I'm going again, I announce, before slipping below the surface and swimming toward the rocky shore nearby. As we drive home in Isaiah's old Jeep, I can't help noticing the way his eyes dance across the heating panel of the center console, focused on a dial that sits precariously shifted to the blazing hot side. I get the feeling Isaiah is struggling to tell me something. Or maybe he wants me to ask something of him, but he's too afraid. Truth be told, this is becoming a theme with Isaiah, and I can't figure out why. We've been close for a long time, and I've always appreciated the way he's been there for me through thick and thin, a reliable shoulder to cry on, a source of great Christian companionship on these long days. What is it? I finally ask. Isaiah plays dumb, glancing over from the driver's seat as his vehicle rumbles forward. The trees of the forest have finally started giving away, revealing the modest suburban homes of Neverton. Tucked against the side of a horseshoe-shaped mountain range. These foothills feel distinctly separate from the rest of the world, while the vast landscape of rolling golden farmlands extend to the east, the majority of this country is swathed in mysterious evergreen forest, hiding our hamlet like a secret as looming peaks rise beyond. I recognize every intricate step of this route, the signs and sidewalks etched into the depths of my soul. It's a humble Montana town of 15,000 locals, so finding your way around isn't much of an accomplishment, but it certainly makes you notice when your driver isn't paying attention. That was the turn, I remind him, charting a route we traveled 1,000 times before. Just get the next one. Sorry. Isaiah apologizes, shaking his head and wiping his brow. He glances at the heater once again. Are you sure you want it that warm? I notice now that he's getting a little red, sweating as the car continues to fill with hot air. Are you feeling okay? It's really hot in here, Isaiah finally cuts to the chase. Can I turn the heat down? I nod. Lately, it feels as though I can't warm up for the life of me, trapped in sporadic states of frigid discomfort. It comes without warning, and the curious part of my mind wonders if this might be a symptom of a larger medical issue. It hasn't been worth bringing up with my parents yet, because by the time I'm irritated enough to do something about this sensation, the chill is thawed. I say nothing as Isaiah adjusts the temperature slightly. A notable pause lingers between us. Long day, huh? My friend eventually stays. I nod again, gazing out the window as a slate of familiar faces passes by. I recognize most of the folks strolling around this evening, merry, God-fearing families out for brisk walks as they enjoy a flourishing purple sunset above. I really like spending time with you, Isaiah declares. I glance back at my friend, appreciating the sincerity of his words. Thanks, you too. You too? He repeats, as if my reply needs more explanation. I really like spending time with you too, I clarify. You're a good friend. Isaiah appears confused by my response, but I don't know what else he wants from me. I'd love to dive deep and figure out what's going on with him, but right now I'm partially distracted by just how ravenously hungry I've become. Isaiah wasn't kidding when he mentioned the length of the day. After 5 or 6 cliff jumps and subsequent climbs back to the top, I found myself yearning for the sweet relief of fat and sugar in my bloodstream. Not fat and blood in my sugar stream. For the sweet relief of fat and sugar in my bloodstream. Thankfully, Mom and Dad assured me dinner would be waiting when I got home. We ride in silence a while longer before Isaiah reaches out and readjusts the heater, pushing forth the warm air once again and bending to my wishes. Thanks. I chuckle graciously. No problem. He replies strangely taciturn. Eventually, Isaac pulls up to my house, his Jeep turning into the gravel driveway and slowly rolling to a stop with a satisfying crunch. Thank you for driving, I offer, anxious to get inside for dinner. I throw off my seatbelt and double check that my backpack and towel are in tow. Swiftly, I throw open the vehicle door and give a slight wave goodbye before hopping out and slamming it shut behind me, then hurry up the front walk. I only made it a few steps before another loud metallic slam answers my own. Curious, I turn and discover Isaiah has climbed from the driver's seat and is marching after me. Rose, he calls out. I wait up, and soon enough, we're standing face to face. There's an intensity to his gaze, a tidal wave of emotion welling up within my friend. I can sense the impending cascade of feelings, but its shape and tone remain abstract. I have no idea what Isaiah could possibly want. My friend doesn't say a word, just stares at me blankly as unknown thoughts spiral through his mind. I've seen this expression a lot lately, but today it has grown to a boiling point, and to be perfectly frank, it's starting to frighten me. What is it? I demand. Isaiah leans forward and kisses me on the lips, a swift movement that's met with my immediate repulsion. I pull my neck away in alarming confusion as our faces meet and then quickly part. My mind is struggling to keep up, desperately piecing together what just happened. I'm sorry, I blurt. I thought, Isaiah stammers. Gradually, the true nature of this moment falls into place with breathtaking clarity. I shake my head, my lips tightly sealed as I let this gesture do the talking. So you're not. Isaiah is still having trouble completing a sentence. Definitely not, I reply. But I thought. He repeats. A surprisingly meek moment for this typically stalwart guy. Nope, I say as my head continues to shake from side to side. Isaiah takes a moment to straighten up, processing this information in a state of awkward rigidity. I can tell he's fighting some powerful internal battle, struggling to calm down. Suddenly, he turns and begins to march back to his car. Before making his way around to the driver's side, however, Isaiah erupts in a startling display of violence as he punches the passenger door. I jump as the Jeep makes a hollow metallic thump, startled at first and then concerned for his hand. That probably hurt. Isaiah doesn't react to the pain. Instead, he stomps around the vehicle and climbs inside, slamming the door behind him. He starts his car and hits the gas, peeling onto the road in reverse and scattering gravel everywhere. I watch in silence, still not sure how to react as Isaiah's Jeep disappears down the road. Eventually, the front door opens behind me and my father sticks his head out, his chiseled jaw and familiar black-framed glasses shadowed in the dying light of the day. "Was that Isaiah?" he calls. "You should have asked him to stay for dinner." Seconds later, my father realizes the porch light is off and makes an awkward humph sound that it seems only dads are capable of. He quickly flips a switch, illuminating the scene. "There's my girl," he says. I solemnly retreat to my father, still completely silent as I wrap my arms around him in a warm embrace. We stand like this for a moment as I allow his protective paternal aura to envelop me. Then I finally pull back as my stomach gurgles. I can already smell the garlic spaghetti sauce as it bubbles and churns in our kitchen stove. I'm thrilled Mom opted for pasta this evening. My father, Luke Darling, is a kind-eyed man with dark features and thick glasses that make him look like Superman. Of course, just like Peter Pan, I've never actually read a Superman comic, but the cultural relevance of the secular hero has somehow permeated my life. It's concerning. Jesus Christ is the only true superhero. "I'm so hungry," I announced. "Hi, so hungry, I'm Dad," my father retorts, prompting a playful groan to escape my throat. We head inside, and I immediately find myself bathed in spiritual warmth, a cozy sensation that causes the ice in my veins to melt away. That lingering chill has finally taken its leave, disappearing with such little fanfare, I hardly remember it was there in the first place. My father, Lisa, greets me in the kitchen with a loud and excited wail. "Rose!" she cries out, as though I've been gone for years, a sauce-covered wooden spoon gripped tightly in her hand. "My baby is back!" Mom wraps her arms around me and plants a firm kiss on my cheek. When she pulls away, she immediately motions to the dining room table, coaxing me toward my place sitting at the end. "Hope you're hungry," she continues. "I made spaghetti." "I can smell that," I reply warmly, "with extra garlic." My parents exchange excited glances, thrilled by this culinary transgression. We're being bad tonight. Mom is always well put together, but this evening she's looking especially done up with a lime green dress and a string of pearls around her neck. Her makeup is less subtle than usual, with a little extra red in the tone of her lips that she wouldn't dare try if we were leaving the house this evening. And her stark blonde hair is held back with a white band across the top of her head. She's a small woman but full of energy, and tonight her natural beauty is on full display. People say we look alike, and right now I can truly appreciate what a compliment that is. I take my seat at the end of the table while my mother continues to move back and forth across the kitchen, hard at work as she guides this meal across the finish line with radiant enthusiasm. Eventually, my father makes his way over and sits down next to me, a peculiar look in his eyes. He's staring like he's got something to say, an amused quirk just barely visible at the corners of his mouth. "What?" I question. "I see the light of the Lord in you tonight," my father informs me, a compliment I'd take to heart, if not for the fact that this loving message feels tethered to something I don't understand. Seconds later, Mom is setting down an enormous dish of spaghetti before us, steam rolling off the bright red sauce as it floods our nostrils with a robust aroma. "Luke," my mother flirts playfully, "give her a moment." My dad smiles and leans back in his chair, still eyeing me mischievously. Okay, what's going on here? I glance back and forth between them as my mother takes her seat. My query goes ignored as our conversation takes a sudden intermission, Luke and Lisa reaching their hands out to take my palms in theirs as we lower our heads. Nobody has to say a word as the three of us fall into our nightly routine. We offer our prayer in unison, eyes shut as these words bounce from our mouths in a familiar cadence. "Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty, through Christ our Lord. Bless us so that we may know our place in his kingdom as servants. Bless us so that we may give service to the Lord, and to the righteous lambs will be spared when the scale of ends meets the scale of means. Bless the kingdom of the pine for lighting the dark path and that our shepherd walks. Amen." I begin to lift my gaze, But before I get the chance, my father launches into an additional blessing. He's clearly caught the spirit this evening. And bless the prophet Kobal for the wisdom he has bestowed. Bless the 4 tenets that guide us, but most importantly, bless our beautiful daughter on this important day. Amen. Amen, my mother and I respond in turn. The 3 of us lift our gazes once more, taking a beat before getting to work and dishing out some pasta. Lisa can't help chuckling to herself. Most of all, she repeats, shaking her head, "Don't get cute, Luke." She's referring to the part where my father placed my blessing above that of the 4 tenets and the prophet Kobal. This is bad form and I'm a little bothered by it. But we're playing it fast and loose tonight. All I can do is refrain from pride and do better when it's my turn to lead. Out of respect, I run through all 4 tenets in my head, with a particular focus on number 3 this evening. Respect. I will honor when I do not understand. Integrity. I will believe when I do not witness. Service. I will strive when my sin is heavy. Excellence. I will persevere when my body does not. So, Mom begins, curiosity overwhelming her tone and elevating it to a playful sing-song frequency. How was your date? I raise an eyebrow as I stab the massive noodles before me, utterly confused as I begin to twirl my utensil. What date? With Isaiah. I can't help but laugh. At the falls today? I question. It was fun, but that wasn't a date. We're just friends. The cold chill I'd felt earlier immediately surges through my body, causing my hand to seize up and my body to shift awkwardly in the hard wooden chair. My parents exchanged glances again, as though passing some unspoken relay baton between them. My father clears his throat for a moment, ready to take over. He's a handsome guy, don't you think? Dad suggests. I shrug. I mean, sure. Mom butts in, unable to wait longer than a single question and answer before leaping back into the fray. You don't like that? She demands to know. You don't want a boyfriend? I can't help the barely audible scoff that escapes my throat. We all love Jesus in the Darling household, but my parents are typically the ones who hoist this flag the highest and elevate my faith on a daily basis. I'm thankful to have 2 spiritual warriors consistently by my side, and through their pious diligence, I've come to carry my own innate parental severity. The idea of them actually encouraging me to have a boyfriend is shocking. I suppose my recent 20th birthday could be the marker that set them off. But the turn they've taken is so alarming, I'm left wondering if it's a trap. I think I should be focused on school right now, I offer, hoping this is what they want to hear. My mother reaches out and places her hand over mine, causing me to, Sorry, yeah, isn't she in high school? This is reading cult as fuck. Sorry. Had to. Got confused. She was talking about being in high school, but she's 20. So I'm thinking culty private institution. Okay. My mother reaches out and places her hand over mine, causing me to return a fresh spool of spaghetti to the plate. Honey, she begins softly. The Lord wants you to start a family. You're a woman now, and finding a partner is a very important part of His plan. I know we've been a little strict about this before, but you should know that it's okay. I'm not sure how to react, staring down at the table before me. My father clears his throat, a sign he's about to launch into a brief diatribe of religious theory. You know, when Tobias Kobal established the 4 tenets, he did so in a way that was pretty genius. A lot of people see him as a man of faith and entrepreneurship. He was, but he was also a family man. Tenet number 4, excellence, my mother chimes in. I will persevere when my body does not. I already know where they're going with this, but I honor the moment and listen respectfully. To live on, Dad continues. That could mean your spirit ascends to heaven, or a business you built keeps turning a profit. Could also mean the family line lives on. I nod. Understood, is all I can think to say. You like Isaiah, don't you? My mother pushes, repeating her initial question. Bill and Anna tells me he's really into you. I now realize any denial regarding this supposed date will promptly be discarded, and we'll be taking another spin around the maypole. Clearly there's an answer my parents want to hear. And if I hope to enjoy this plate of spaghetti, I'll have to give it to them. Still, I refuse to lie. That's a sin. And today was good, I reply, stretching my enthusiasm as far as it can possibly go. Isaiah is really nice. Immediately, the tension in my mother's hand softens. She releases her grip as both of my parents sit back in their chairs, finally allowing me a moment of rest. I don't look up as I eat, but from the corner of my eye, I see them watching with absolute satisfaction. They're not even touching their food, just allowing the gratitude to wash over them, as though I'm a toddler who's finally learned how to walk. Eventually, the evening kicks back into gear and my parents plunge into their food. It seems my simple answer was just enough to satisfy whatever they were looking for. Still, a host of questions continue to linger in the back of my mind. Why were they talking to Isaiah's parents about our day at the falls? Everyone in Neverton is pretty closely knit, especially members of the congregation, but as far as I knew, Bill and Anna didn't have a strong rapport with my folks. I try letting it slide and moving on, but the circumstances of this meeting remain firmly planted in my mind, unable to budge no matter how diligent my attempts to slip past. Finally, I turn back to my mother, my curiosity getting the better of me. I open my mouth to speak, but instead of any coherent words spilling from my throat, I find myself erupting with an unexpected cough. Instinctively, I reach for the tall glass of water on the table next to me, swiftly downing the cool liquid and trying again. However, this time I'm met with the same result at an even larger scale. Something's tickling the back of my throat, flooding me with frustration as I struggle to speak or even breathe. I begin to cough harder as expressions of grave concern wash across my parents' faces. "Are you alright, hun?" Dad asks. A sudden final cough unblocks my throat as air pumps forcefully from within, blasting forth the seed of my discomfort in a singular heave. I gag slightly, struggling to collect myself as my father pats me on the back with loving grace. "Something go down the wrong pipe?" He chuckles. I nod, taking another long sip from my water glass. I gaze down at the plate of spaghetti before me, hoping to find the culprit, and gasp abruptly, nearly choking all over again. A small black insect wriggles atop my pasta, slathered in sauce as it hopelessly flips its wings in a futile attempt to escape. "Oh my word," my mother blurts, leaning forward to get a better look. My father does the same, adjusting his glasses as he struggles to take in this thin, tiny, unexpected guest. The whole family is silent for a moment, reeling. "Must have swallowed the poor thing by accident," Dad suggests. I open my mouth to reply, but this simple movement causes an abrupt spasm to overwhelm my throat. I let out a loud, animalistic retch as a cascade of black erupts from deep within me, pouring through my esophagus and spilling across the plate. The upheaval is so sudden that my parents nearly fall backwards in their chairs, letting out cries of alarm as they reflexively push away. When this ejection finally stops, I stare down in utter horror, my body trembling as my mind races to understand the bizarre, squirming mass that's now heaped onto my pasta and scattered across the table. This black pile is churning and moving, crawling over itself as tiny wings flutter and miniature legs kick the air. I scream as I realize this is not some toxic liquid, but a dark porridge of living creatures. Little flies born deep within my body before their sudden explosion. And that's where we're stopping for tonight.